Now, the whole of the book of Revelation is a letter. It is in the form of a letter. It is addressed to all 7 churches. The whole of Revelation takes place in a small area in the southwest corner of what is now Turkey. In the days of the Roman Empire, it was a province called Asia, but we now know it as southwest Turkey. Now you notice that the whole country is pretty barren and dry. High, mountainous plateau. It has little rain. And what rain does drop on the mountains of Turkey flows west through rivers. The big question which we must ask and try and answer is, why did Jesus only write letters to this little area? Did it ever surprise you when you read that Jesus never wrote a letter to the church in Jerusalem or Antioch or Rome? Only these 7 churches. Now comes the great surprise, and this is probably new to most of you here. This was the area where, at the end of the 1st century AD, Satan had his headquarters. Satan, of course, can only be in one place at once. He's not everywhere. He has agents everywhere, demonic agents, to do his will, but he has to go to and fro in the earth or up to heaven. He has access to heaven, as Job chapter 1 will tell you. So he moves around. But on earth, he always has a base, a headquarters, and it is always high on a mountain, because he loves looking down on people. He loves surveying his kingdom, and so he chooses always a mountain as his headquarters. And we know from Jesus' letters to the churches that Satan at that time had his headquarters in Pergamum. And from there he traveled to and fro in the earth, but always came back here as his residence. And when Jesus wrote the letter to the church in Pergamum, he said, I know where you live. It's where Satan resides. It's where he has his seat. What a sight it must have been. From little Pergamum, the city below, you look up to the top of this mountain and you see the smoke as if it's a volcano ascending to Zeus, king of the gods. Here you could see miles and miles. And this was Satan's seat. It's like a huge armchair. It is a throne. And Jesus says in the letter to Pergamum, I know where you live. That's where Satan resides. That's where Satan's seat is. Many Christians have the idea that moving this to Berlin at the beginning of the 20th century had a profound effect on Germany and what happened in the last century there. Whatever. The churches that were nearest to Pergamum had one kind of problem. As you move further away from Satan's residence, the churches had a different kind of problem. And the 2 churches furthest away had a very different problem from the others. To put it simply, the 2 churches that were nearest to Satan's residence were both being corrupted from the inside by idolatry and immorality. The next 2 churches further away were both suffering not from the inside but by persecution from the outside. And in both cases, Satan was using the Jews to persecute the Christians. And Jesus even dared to call their synagogue a synagogue of Satan. The Jews were used in the earliest days of the Christian church to persecute the Christians. Alas, when the Christians got power after the days of Constantine the emperor, after he was converted, Christians took their revenge and became anti-Jewish and persecuted the Jews for the next 17 centuries. It's a very sad part of church history that we were responsible for the persecution of the Jewish people for so long. So, The two churches that were furthest away from Satan, he wasn't bothering at all. So what went wrong with those two? Well, one was Ephesus, and they had lost their first love. And the other was Laodicea, and they had become lukewarm. And churches that have lost their first love and become lukewarm, Satan doesn't bother them at all. He doesn't need to. They're not a threat to him. They're not likely to attack his kingdom. They will just carry on as they are. So have you got the picture? Pergamum, Satan resides. That's his base on earth. Why would he choose Pergamum? I've given you the answer. This area was the most important area in the whole world to control. It sat right over the east-west road, the road between Europe, Asia and Africa, passed right through here. Whoever controlled this situation could control the world, control the world, control the world.